I love disc golf. I love in the bags. I especially love amateur in the bags. Now we're going to talk about the fairways. I have 7 fairways. And we'll start with slowest and most understable and work our way up. So first one is that the Axiom MVP, Neutron plastic. It gets 7.5 negative 2.1. It's nice for straight with a little bit of fade, or I'm sorry, a little bit of turn on a backhand. I won't forehand this, but basically I have to talk about the Crave at the same time as I talk about the Rhythm, because this Proton Crave was exactly what I was looking for when I was looking for a straight fairway. You're thinking, I really want to hit this line like I would my hex, like I would my straight, stable mid-range, but I wanted to go a little farther. That's exactly what this Proton Crave is, which I threw another Crave before this, and I decided at the time I didn't like the Crave because it was somebody's, I think it was Neutron or some other plastic, that it might have even been Electron or something like that, but it flipped over. It was unusable for me. So anytime a disc just turns over and rolls out, I'm pretty much done with that disc. Like, I hate that. I would rather a disc just hooks up and too early or something like that. But if it turns over and does something else, I'm not using that disc probably ever again. I just hate it when a disc does that. Yeah, then it just makes it so I have no confidence in it, and something in my head just immediately when that happens, I'm like, oh, I'm done with that disc forever. So anyway, luckily I picked up this Crave, Proton Crave. Proton plastic you would expect it to be more stable, but it is wonderful. It is stable. It doesn't really flip hard. You know, it doesn't turn over like that unless there's a hard headwind, which then that would be my fault because I shouldn't be throwing discs that are not stable, more stable into headwinds. So this one here is basically like a mid in that I will usually often use, you know, all kind of a power grip like this, you know, all 4 fingers, but this is not that tight, the front finger, and I'm using all 4 here, even my pinky, and you know, I kind of hit it that way. Just think of it a lot like I would a mid, and because I do that same thing with mids, and I'll kind of go back to that actually. Let's say a mid, because I have different, that's one thing about me. I don't have just one grip. I have pretty much alter my grip with every single different speed, and for a beginner that might be confusing, but it works well for me just because as I pick up different discs, I'm used to that because I know what works for me based on the width of the rim. You know, you can't throw the same with the different, you know, with a putter as you do with a driver, as all the different, same with a mid. So this is almost like, I'd say, a hybrid between my putter grip and towards more of a driver grip. I'm a little tighter with this finger. I've got all 4 fingers in here. I've got it real tight with my pinky, and these kind of stack together. My middle finger, my ring finger, and my pinky kind of stack on that rim. And when I release, it gives me a good amount of hybrid between control and power. So with that explained, I will go back to the Crave. I pretty much do that same thing with the Crave. It's like the same grip because it's a similar stability and speed, and I just hit it flat with all 4, let go, and it goes probably about 300 feet before it starts to hook up a little bit. And when it does hook up a little bit, you know, you'll get a tiny bit of hyzer there at the end, and but it stays pretty straight, and this thing will go easily 325, 330. Sometimes in an open field I can throw it, you know, I could get 340, 350 out of it, which is impressive. It's a great disc for that, for everything, you know. It can be for a lot of beginners for that sort of thing because it's a consistent disc. But I like to say 300, 320, but when I'm trying to go straight. So back to the Rhythm. The Rhythm is that with a little bit of turn. and that nice slow pan turn. And again, like with my detour, I'm learning that shot a lot more because I have leaned on a forehand for many years, which I still enjoy, but I'm actually getting away from the forehand on shorter shots, other than approaches. Like, so between approaches and max distance drives where I need a forehand, I am trying to go more with a little bit of the slow pan, understable a little bit, turn discs. And so this one is, so if I think with that crave that it's gonna, finish like that, and I don't want that. Say there's a tree right here and I gotta get past it 300 feet and I want it to slowly go in there. Let's say there's another tree here where a forehand wouldn't work. Forehand doesn't do that right because forehand's gonna hit this tree right here before it has a chance to come back. This one I can hit on a flat line through here and then get the late turn and end where you want it to be. So this has been exactly that, and I love it. It's what I want. I had a Maverick, and not to talk badly about Maverick is really flippy. As long as you know that, it's a -1.2, which seems like it should be more overstable than this guy, but it's not. It's really flippy, and it beats in quickly, even with dynamic discs, more premium plastics. So that one I had in the bag for a while, and it just became unusable. I wanted so badly to keep it in the bag because it was that really understable hyzer flip mid, but it just became where I couldn't, because it was too fast even at 7 speed for what it was, and it would flip and it would turn over, and then you got no control left. You didn't get where you wanted to go. Anyway, so I'll hit this one flat and it'll fade like that, which is wonderful. I also have been doing some testing with the Anheuser, kind of the flex shot. So a flex shot, for any new players, a flex means you put it on Anheuser, the backhand, you put it where this outside edge is up, and so the flex is that it comes out this way and it flexes to flat and then even comes back. That's what a flex is. It's like, some people call it an S line as well, but it's a flex when you force it to do that, because you're forcing it by putting on that angle, not having the disc do, whatever it's gonna do. Those are different types of things. But this is so I like this a little bit for those flex lines, and also the crave. So the crave is a little bit more overstable or stable, where I can hit these lines where I need to get through a gap. And when you do flex lines, it opens up the fairway for you. In the way that if there's these trees at different places and you try to do a straight shot with, say, they call it one angle, and like hyzer, and then have it come to that spot, you can't get there because there's trees here. So this is what called opens up the fairway by putting it on a flex line. So say that, again, that kind of similar, but let's say there's a tree here, there's a tree closer to me here, and I need to get down here, but back this way at the end. So let's say there's even 3 trees, or you got to come back this way instead of just coming through here and end over here. So I would flex line possibly this crave, and I might even aim at this tree, but on an Anheuser angle. So when it comes out, it's going to do this, and because it's on the Anheuser angle, it's going to be coming this way. But then the stability kicks in, it flattens and finishes its flex line left. So you just made this disc do an entire kind of serpentine S line through this. And it's not something that beginners are going to be able to do right away at all. It's something that you add to your game, and that's what I'm doing currently, even though I've been playing for quite a few years. I'm adding in those Anheuser flex lines with different discs, and different discs will act differently. So you've got to test them, which stability, which speed, which disc. So you end up testing discs, and I test all kinds of discs because I want those exact things, and I love it. It's one of the funnest things. I feel like a disc scientist when I'm out there testing, making hypothesis about a new disc, and then get out there and test it and find out. And so I'm not really a scientist. I'm just just like fiddling around. So anyway, those flex lines are great, but this one again will do that and come out, possibly depending on the wind and different things like that. And this one here, I can do that and say it's in an open field. I may want to put it on an anhyzer out here, throw it, release it a little bit left, and know it's going to come in, but with enough time and enough height, it might finish flat and go to the basket. So that's a really fun line, and it's similar to a long forehand, but a little different. And again, for me, I'm actually trying to phase out for as much forehand as I can. And I'm gonna say, I love forehand, and it's been great. It's been my bread and butter for many years, and I love it in disc golf. And but the backhand, when you've got it down, it's more consistent. It's got better spin, it's got better speed, better distance in general. Once you get that figured out, and for me, it's even more fun. I love backhanding because there's that more control on it. So once you figure out that control and all that, and forehand is also a little bit what I'd call herky-jerky kind of. It's a lot of snaps, so it's a small margin of error sometimes with, getting something that just goes over or comes out, and it really, your disc gets there fast. And with backhand doing these different anhyzer lines and flex lines, it's really fun, more controllable. So, moving on to my third and last 7-speed fairway driver. This is an Exodus. It's some metal flake, color glow Exodus. I think it's 7.5 -1.2, and this disc does exactly what I want. That it's very reliable and finishes, but it's not overstable. It's not a headwind disc, but it'll go to about 325, 320, 330 in there and finish right to that spot. And that's something about my bag as well that I have set up. I like the same line at different discs, different speeds. So let's say I want to get a nice natural hyzer line, finishes right to there. At 300 feet, that's a certain disc. At 330 feet, that's this disc. At 350 feet, 360, that might be another disc. That actually is a Tesla. And so I want to be able to throw about that same speed with that different disc and know it's going to there. That helps me in tournaments. It's just how I've kind of built my game, and so far where I'm at in my game. So this one again is that 320, 330 foot hyzers consistently to where I want it to go. I've also added the line with this where, because it's a 7-speed, if I power up, so instead of throwing this at 70%, like maybe is my normal speed, say I power it a little harder and throw 80, 85%. So now instead of doing that consistent, it's going to now power it, and this is going to go like this, but come back. So that can be really useful. Specifically around here, let's go back, Palisade, Riverbend Park, hole 12. Locals will know what that is. So what that means, that one, there's all these bushes right here, there's a tree, there's kind of a scrub tree right here, but then you've got to go, and it's another 250 feet down, and you've got these 60-foot cottonwood trees. And you've got to go between kind of a gap here and push another 30 feet through and finally get to the basket up here. So there's a lot of stuff in the way. The best way to hit this is to have something that goes like this and goes through the biggest gap here and ends at the basket. But you got to get past this scrub tree and have it do that. So I've tried, you can forehand and try to get lucky through all the cottonwood trees. That's usually what I would do. Or I would even thumber it above the trees and have them come in. And a lot of times that's a great one, but I've been getting away from thumbers as well because I'm getting a little older and the shoulder doesn't always like the thumbers, especially when you're in the middle of a round and you're going to throw one thumber. You haven't warmed it up. Yeah, so you're going to throw this thumber, and you have to throw thumbers hard. I'll tell you that right now. You have to throw them as if you are throwing a baseball from the outfield. That's pretty similar, kind of way that you got to throw it. So Again, I'm kind of trying to phase that out, and this on that 80-85% will go, it'll get some fade and come back, or some turn and then fade back in. And so that is awesome. And I love adding those different, that's I think the level, honestly, where as an amateur disc golfer, you are going from intermediate to advanced. So as an advanced player, I think most advanced players have that in their bag. They have that power up and get, you know, a little more out of that disc. And they've also got that, they got the flex line that they can do, and they've also got the flat to slow pan. So those are what I've been adding in and getting better at when I'm on the course as well. So that's Exodus. Now I'll start with my most understable 9-speed fairway drive. Still fairway, maybe some people call them control drivers. So understable, we got the Heat. I specifically use the Heat mostly for hyzer flips, but it's got to be fast. You know, to do its thing, you've got to throw it fast enough for it to act as those numbers are. And I believe it's 9, 5, -3, 1. And so I will hyzer flip this when I've got, say, let's say the hole is 320 feet. Now I'll go to one of my favorite discs ever, the Streamline Lift. It is, I'd say it's got to be underrated. So underrated because it's streamline, and a lot of people haven't really got into Streamline. I think it's made by MVP, but it's their single mold, not their over mold stuff. Awesome disc. The Lift, it's I think it's 9.5 -2 1.5. So that's really neutral, very straight disc. And this is truly straight, and it's wonderful. So when you have that disc that is truly straight, it's awesome. It doesn't really hook up hard. It goes through the gap and it stays there. It also has enough stability not to flip over unless there's a big headwind. So without wind, it will hit as a point and shoot disc. Another thing, this is a good chance for me to show you how I like to throw my 9 speeds and up, I'd say, is a 3-finger power grip. So yeah, the 3 fingers on there, they're all really tight. This one is now very tight in there, and I've got all 3. I don't use the pinky. Reason why for that is I used to, but if you have 3, you just move that with, I guess it's the fulcrum of where that spins out of your disc now up to about here. With this, the more fingers that you have, the farther back that is. I mean, if I put this, the pressure is probably right here now on this ring finger, and when it comes out, it's not going to be as spinny with your release. So took me a little bit to get it down and to figure it out, just like anything. But I do the 3-finger, and now the fulcrum is probably right there on the middle finger, and I feel really good about that. It's a good tight release, and I release nose neutral, nose down a little bit, and that's how I do from 9 speed up. Because as you get faster in your discs, the rims get wider, and so that's why you need to change it up a little bit, see what works best for you. So that's the Neutron Streamline Lift. All right, next one. This is a Tesla. Hard to see because it's triple black, which is awesome. Love it. But triple black Tesla, Neutron Tesla from MVP. 9.5 -1.2. This disc is very reliable, and I know it's going to fade. And it's kind of like that Exodus with, but this one maybe 350, 360. And I can aim it out to the right. I want it to hyzer, go right to my spot. That's this disc, which is wonderful to have. I think this is also a good one for headwinds, you know, maybe light to moderate headwind, because it's going to keep straight. It might keep it straight longer, but it's going to finish. It's not going to flip over, and it's not so overstable that it's going to go, and if any headwind gets under here, it's not going to shoot it off that way either. So really good one. I've tried kind of forehanding a little bit with it, and a little lighter forehand is kind of good with it. I got to spend some more time with that to be maybe a little more confident in this as a forehand disc. So finally, last, Fairway driver, 9-speed. It's a Fireball MVP. No, I'm sorry, Axiom. I gotta be honest with you, I haven't even thrown this yet, but I had a Sexton Firebird for a long time in here, and as those beat in, they get a little bit more soft, and on my forehand, it also was starting to turn over a little. My forehand is very torquey. It's not, you know, like one of these most smooth throws that anybody has, that I have. You know, I do know certain players that have these beautiful buttery forehands, and that's great. I just don't. I've got more of a baseball type flick it hard thing, I guess. So anyway, I added this in recently, haven't thrown it yet, looking forward to throw it soon, but I believe that it will replace that Firebird with a very consistent forehand when I want to go about maybe 300 to a gap, or 325 when it's more open, 325, 330 maybe, probably 325-ish. All right, back to everybody's favorite, distance drivers. But actually, first I'm going to start with they are distance drivers, but I would call them my specialty drivers because they are for a utility shot of a overhand throw. Specifically for me, the thumber. A lot of people do thumbers, and they also do tomahawks, which tomahawks spin or barrel roll opposite of thumbers. I do thumbers only. I don't do the tomahawks, but the thumber, show you how to throw a thumber, is you just get your finger or your thumb real tight in here into the rim, and some people like to kind of, you know, they might have their front finger like that, or sometimes I like it kind of like that. But the main thing is with throwing a thumber is that it's the right size rim for your thumb to be secure. You want your thumb to be very secure, not where it's a little too big. I use the 12-speed flick, Discraft flick. I think it's 12 4 plus 1 5. So one of the most overstable discs you can find. And it's perfect for me being able to really secure in my thumb. It's very tight, and I throw it like I'm throwing a baseball, again from the outfield. And it'll either be, you know, straight up and down, you know, it's the right spot high enough, and it'll kind of do a pan like this and corkscrew, come back down pretty flat, pretty straight in front of you. That's what people throw these a lot of times. They end very much right straight in front of you. So you can pick your spot, throw it there, goes over, ends very well in front of you. And it takes a lot of the stuff in front of you out of play. So as long as you have low enough trees to throw over, it can be a great throw for your game. And it can help. It can, you know, save you a stroke or two in a tournament or a tournament round. And that's pretty big. And I've done that a lot in the past. It's a utility throw that I've used a lot throughout my game. Again, I'm getting away from it because I'm learning the other lines to get through things, and I enjoy that more. And I also feel I like those are a little bit more finessey, and they don't hurt as much too. Sometimes throwing a thumber, like I said, it can hurt. It can make your shoulder sore. Or your elbow, based on your mechanics and different things that happen. So not something, you know, I don't want to throw it 8-10 times around. And I have done that in the past, in the years past, and really felt the soreness. Not great for your body. So some people have done things that, you know, or found ways to really negate that, especially, you know, old baseball players. And there's one local pro around here that is just the most incredible forehand thrower. Everybody will know who I'm talking about. He can throw up to at least 500 feet, maybe 550, and he can also use different types of discs with different stabilities to pinpoint, you know, 250, 300 feet away, and he can even get, you know, full corkscrew and then back the other way. And you'll be playing with him and he'll be hitting the ground 2-3 feet from the basket every time. I mean, it's crazy. It's incredible. It's fun to watch. So anyway, I don't do that because I don't have the arm he has, but I can get about 340 max on this this flick right here. It's a low weight 145 gram flick. So a fun fact here, a baseball is 145 grams. So it's almost exact, I mean, it's the same. And this is awesome because it's very overstable, which is what I want. Very overstable means it pans slower, which means it gets more distance. If you do understable disc, it's gonna pan quickly and go down. That's great for a lot of things. You know, you want to throw over a tree 180 feet away, cool, use that. But this will pan so it'll get more distance and get to where I want it to go. So this has been good. It hurts the shoulder less. It's great for distance. And then I've got the same disc, the flick, but this is 172 grams and it does the same thing, but 270-ish, 270, 280. And so it's very, very predictable. And that's, again, what you want, very predictable. So those are the two thumber discs that I have in the bag. Now I will show you guys the distance drivers. And I've got 8, but don't hate on me too much. Some of these are for forehand, and they're just different varying degrees of stability. And I've got, let's see, these ones are 11 speed, these ones are 12 to 14 speed. And I've actually got one that I'm adding. I do have enough room. You know, this XL Zuka is incredible. Like, I have enough room for probably 3-4 more discs than I'm carrying right now. But one more in the mail. I'll tell you about that one in a second. So this one here is the Grace, and I love the Grace. I can't endorse the Grace enough. It came out, I think, close to 2 years ago, and has just been incredible for my game from the start. At that time, especially, I was really trying to gain distance, going from 320 max distance, you know, up from there. And I think around the time I got this disc became the disc that I could get to about, you know, between 320 to 350 with my backhand. And now the point of my game where I'm at is I can get it about 400 feet. It's one of my max distance types of discs, not this one specifically. This one is one of the early run ones, and I hit a lot of trees with it. Specifically, let's go to Confluence Park in Delta, Colorado, and hole 13. So there's a gap it's only about 50 feet in front of you, and it's probably about 25 feet wide with big trees on both sides. And it's a 370-foot hole, so you have to throw hard. You know, as amateurs, at least, you know, pros could take out a putter and do it, but not us. So amateurs wise, you're throwing your max distance type of thing, and this one hit the trees there a few times. And I remember, and I think you can see it here, it does have a little bit of a curl down in the rim from hitting those trees. So long story short of that is this one is flippy. I put on here FB, and that is for flippy. I don't know, you can decide what that B is for. So it's 171 grams, and this one is flippy. It's basically like my Heat, but faster. It's 11 speed. Again, the Grace is 11.6 -1.2, and this one I'd say probably has characteristics of 11.6 -3.1 probably, which is awesome. It's my long distance hyzer flip disc. Again, so this one actually I would use now on that hole 13 at Confluence, because you want to get through that gap on a hyzer flip, end up flat and push, hopefully get a skip and be close enough to make a birdie. It's a very hard hole to get a birdie on, but if you can do that, then that's the best way to do it as far as I've seen. And again, I like to use my three finger power grip, and hit it on a hyzer flip. And I'll go into that in future videos on this channel, but how to hyzer flip. Ending, you got to end straight. I guess I'm going into it now a little bit too. You've got to end where you're just like if you're ending flat, you want to be releasing right there as it's naturally coming out of your hand. You're not really thinking about your release, but you're snapping through, releasing to that spot. Well, on a hyzer flip, you need to be releasing there too. The biggest mistake people make, I believe, in learning hyzer flip and doing hyzer flips is trying to release out here. It just feels like you're supposed to do that because that's where your arm naturally wants to kind of go, is kind of hyzer. That doesn't work. You do that and it flips up over here and it ends flat and comes back a little bit, but you just kind of did this big hyzer line that ended up over there kind of thing. Not down your gap. And the whole reason for a hyzer flip is to go down your gap and to flip to flat and go straight through. A lot of people say it's the hardest throw in disc golf is to throw straight. I don't agree with that that's the hardest, because there's a lot of other ones that are pretty hard too, like some good flex lines and things like that. But you know, low ceiling hyzer flip is really tough though. But anyway, so I'll take this guy and just get that snap on it, nice and flat, release right there, have it go fast, flat, and then end. So long story for the flippy grace. Then I've got the stable grace. This is one of my longest distance drivers. And I'd say it's right there in the longest, but very consistent and has good finish. It's kind of one of my top 3 bombers, I will say. Got 3 what I call bombers, which is the longest ones I could throw. This one is probably the most stable, will finish the most of my 3 most. So they're not the same because they do, if I threw 3 in a field, this one might be here, the other one will be, my Shrike will be here, and my Corvette will be here. I'm not really like 2 feet away from each other, but if you spread that out on a fairway. So then I've got what is my overstable grace, I would call it. Still not super overstable, but it can take some more wind. That one I just showed you, I don't like throwing it in a headwind at all. Then I've got my headwind disc. This is 11 speed, it's a Wraith. The Halo Wraith is one of the, probably the most overstable Wraith that you can get, and this is great for wind. If it's a 15 mile, 20 mile an hour headwind, then I can trust to hit this hard and it will go like this, but it will come out. That is what you want in a headwind, and it won't flip over and go in the canal like the other ones would. Now we'll go actually onto, this is basically for forehand only. Anything above 11 speed is usually for forehand only. I say that, but I do back in my Shrike and my Grace, or my Shrike and my Corvette. But this force is a very overstable run. It's an ESP force. This is very overstable, but you can do that 2-finger forehand it flat, and know that it's gonna be on. It's not gonna go and like straighten out for a while. It doesn't. It's gonna hold an exact hyzer line the whole way, even flat, and basically go about 300 feet. Not real far for a driver. So, but it's gonna go right where I want it exactly, almost every time, in a hard, you know, a good power to it. Now moving on to the Octane. This is a Proton plastic MVP Octane, 13.5 -1.2. I have just recently added this last few weeks because I've forehanded a nuke for a long time, like a Big Z nuke from Discraft. Actually, I have one right here. So I've forehanded, this has been my kind of long distance, max distance forehand disc. And I usually would have a couple that are different stabilities. I like to have one that's really overstable, so I know that I could, you know, even put it on some flex lines and know that it's gonna come out. And then some that are max distance, kind of like this guy was, and would kind of get some straighten out and then finish. And I'm looking close to about 400 feet, 395, 400 with this has been pretty normal for me lately. But the problem is I keep losing them. They keep going in the creek on hole 5 at Watson Island, and they keep going in the river on hole, say 7 at Watson Island, and hole 17 at Watson Island, or trying to do some of those flex lines and ending up hole 13A in the creek. Anyway, I'm finding that just a pattern. I keep losing my nukes, all of them. I mean, I've probably lost 5 or 6 in the last season, maybe more. And when I get one, I'll get like usually I'll try to find this run, and so I've got a couple off of eBay. I think I've got this one off of eBay. The old Big Z gas mask, because the newer one I had was actually really overstable. So just so different, you know, and that's fine, but then I got to get them and I got to test them, and sometimes I find out, oh, that's not what I wanted, that's not what I was looking for, and I keep testing, and then I go and lose that one again. So it's a frustrating process. Long story short to that is that I'm really liking MVP lately. Obviously, I've got a bunch of MVP in the bag right now. They've all kind of gone in there in the last like 6 months. They've been just taking over my bag because the discs fly great. They hold to, they do what you expect them to do, and they all do what I want in different ways, in a great way. So the octane, it's a 13.5 -1.2, which again is a nuke is 13.5 -1.3. So a nuke should be more overstable from the numbers. But, and that's why I was a little bit kind of not so sure the octane was going to be right. Another thing is the nuke says it's a 13 speed, but this is another detail thing when you start getting into disc. But the rim is 2.5 centimeters, 25 millimeters. That is about the biggest rim you can find. There might be some bigger, but that's pretty much the biggest. Like the MVP ones, for example, that are that big are considered 14.5 speeds. So I don't know why Discraft calls that a 13 speed, but it's extremely big rim, which more speed, less control. That's just how that works. More speed, less control. And some people can't handle it, and I really thought that I did for forehand for a long time. But the pattern was I kept losing that disc, and so I have to look at that pattern and go, that disc is maybe the least reliable of the discs that I use, at least for me. And I love the disc, okay? I've been using the nuke for like almost 10 years. So even one finger forehanded it back in the day. Anyway, now I picked up this octane to try it out. Proton plastic, which is supposed to be one of their probably their most overstable plastic other than glow. Through this guy, it immediately it is amazing. It's what I want. It might not go as far every time. It might go 20 to 30 feet less, actually. But it has been very consistent. It has not even once has it fully turned out and then ended up here. Again, which is what I hate the most. So it hasn't done that. It stables out and gets distance and comes back reliably. So the octane is an awesome, wonderful disc, and I'm loving it. My main forehand disc right now. So, and that's where I'll talk about the one I have in the mail. It is I can remember, Panic. It's a Axiom Panic I got in the mail. So the reason why I got that is I'm looking for what I was talking about with the nuke that I had that was really overstable and I could put it on a flex line. I want to have one I can flex line. I can't really flex line this one at the speed that I do it at. If I flex line it, it will not come out in time to do that. But a more overstable one, I could flex line. I might even be looking for something, you know, up like this, or even a little more chop even, and get over a bunch of stuff and come out with enough height and then like that, get some really good distance out of stuff like that. All right. So, looks like last couple discs here. This one again, this is my Shrike, which I would consider like my straight bomber. It's G-Star plastic, which is really gummy and a great plastic. I love G-Star from Innova. I gotta be honest, I'm not a huge Innova fan, but there's a few discs, a few molds that they have that I really love. They hit it on the spot, nothing like it. There's nothing like a Shrike really. There are a couple discs out there that are similar numbers. I think a Discraft Crank and some others like that, but they just, none of them to me feel just like a Shrike or are a Shrike. So a Shrike is 13.6 -2.2. So I usually do not backhand anything above 11 speed, like I said before. There's something about the Shrike that works for me with my three finger grip. This is, I think maybe it's because also it's a G-Star. I can really dig my thumb in, but that's tight. There's no problem there with my grip. Usually 11 speed is about the max, but this is tight and works for me for backhand. And I think it's because of the understability to the -2.2 that it this one wants to go and finish pretty straight. And I think also the G-Star plastic might be kind of stable in the way that because it's gummy and you get good spin on the disc, because of the gumminess and good grip, the better spin you get, it actually stables up your discs. It actually helps your discs spin quickly and hold their line well. So I'm going to end with my G-Star Corvette, and it says a 14.6 -2.2. So it seems like it should be decently stable, but it actually is a little bit more stable than that Shrike. And it can be max. I think I've thrown maybe 425, which is really the higher end of like a golf shot on a course that I've ever done. But this one will end a little bit farther right. So if you got all the space in the world in the fairway, then this might be the one. And it might get out of the bag later, but for now, it's different enough. It's fun to have it. Thank you guys for being here. This is Adam Up Disc Golf. I hope you've enjoyed this. I know I get long-winded, but I love it. I love disc golf.